Now, while all this drama is going on, Federal Labor today quietly ditched its last baggage from the Bill Shorten years. And of course, that unlosable election that they actually lost. And this should actually worry the Morrison government. Labor leader Anthony Albanese got his shadow cabinet today to drop Labor's old plan to halve the capital gains tax deduction and to limit negative gearing. So investors, they were so furious at the last election about that. Plus the big one, Labor won't oppose the stage 3 tax cuts that the government's passed for high income earners. So Albanese had his shadow treasurer explain that backflip.
So what it means is for the 9 million plus Australians who earn $45,000 or more, they'll get the same tax cut under the Morrison government as under us. And there's certainty when it comes to the existing negative gearing and capital gains tax arrangements as well.
Joining me is the panel, former Federal Labor Minister Steve Conroy and Michael Kroger, former Victorian Liberal President. Steve Conroy, why the change?
Well, I think when you lose an election like we did last time, you have to have a really serious look at what went wrong. And I think the totality of the package put forward by Bill at the last election, unfortunately, it just didn't hang together in the voters' minds. And I think Albo has made a tough decision. I'm sure there'll be disappointed people in the party, but he's made a decision that puts Labor with its best possible chance going forward into the next election. So I would agree that if you're in the Liberal Party, you'd be saying, wow, okay, we've got a contest on our hands.
Well, that is a point, actually, isn't it, Michael Kroger? I mean, the small target strategy, this is going to make it harder for the Liberals to attack Labor as a big taxing, big spending party. I mean, both parties are big spending now, but Labor's not going to be taxing as much as more than the Liberals. Well, not much more.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. I think Stephen's right. These were unpopular policies. They led to Labor's defeat and to Shorten's defeat. And as I've said for many months, Andrew, Albanese's following the small target strategy, the night watchman strategy. I just hope no one notices me. I'm just sitting here quietly. I'm not going to offend anybody. Nobody's worse off. Nothing's being taken away from anybody. I'm just here for a good time and I'll look after everybody and no one's going to be penalised under me. There are no people I'm targeting. That's the Labor strategy, and he's hoping that, not unreasonably, that after 9 years, the government is seen by people to be a bit tired. Of course, it is going for its 4th term. I keep making this point. This is going for 4th term. It's very hard to get 4 terms. So as a political strategy, it's correct. And Albanese is making it very, very clear that it doesn't matter what he junks, his number one objective is to get into government.
Steve Conroy, obviously, that will take money away that they can spend as well, although everyone's now slapping so much on the credit card, who knows. But it's going to reduce the differences a fair bit. What are going to be those big differences now, the big battleground between the two parties at the next election?
Well, a great shock after Labor lost the last election was the biggest shock on anyone's face was Scott Morrison going, what do I do now? I mean, this is a government that had no agenda. It's been filled in by COVID. Had the bushfires very early, and now it's got COVID and the economic recovery. And that's what Scott Morrison will be known for. And with the vaccine rollout, or strollout, as a lot of people are now calling it, debacle, with now lives being lost again, and the country not going to be opening up to international tourism. These are going to be the big issues that Albo is going to be able to get a laser sharp focus on and say, we would have done this, and we're going to do this going forward. So Scott Morrison is not going to be able to run on a record because he doesn't have one. And so I think Labor will be able to talk around the incompetence of the government. And Michael's point is always right. I mean, the 4th election, they'll be going for 12 years. People are going to be a bit tired and stale of this model. And that leaves Labor to pick 3 or 4 issues, which they know what they want to say. They haven't told me, but they know what they're going to say, and they're going to be able to launch some very big and attractive policies, not only big in a financial sense, but something that's going to get people talking, like, say, Australian manufacturing. We've got to get sovereign capability restored into our supply chains. And I think that's a big winner.
I'm totally in favour of that, but I think the Liberals will probably be on that agenda as well. I mean, we've all had a shock from how vulnerable we've been from this virus scare, plus, of course, China's threats, to the fact that we do not have sovereign capability in so many areas. So I think both sides will be onto that. But I'm just wondering, Michael, I think, so we had Labor shrinking the difference between them on taxes, which is going to hurt the Liberals. We've had Morrison, meanwhile, shrinking the difference between them, or trying to, on climate, which I think is a mistake. So what are going to be the big differences in the next election?
So the next election is going to be fought on who best is the party to lead Australia during the economic recovery. That's what the election will be about. I don't think it'll be about COVID. I don't think it'll be about vaccines, borders. It'll be...
Well, it will be about COVID unless we get a big difference. It could be about COVID unless the government does remarkably well in the early new year in opening up the economy. But it's got to do remarkably well.
Yeah. I doubt that, because I think everyone will be vaccinated by the end of the year, and then you'll find lockdowns and deaths plummet dramatically. And by March, April, the electorate will have moved on, as the electorate here in Victoria has moved on from the 800 people that died under Daniel Andrews' watch, and the fellow's still Premier of Victoria. People have just moved on. And I think federally, once everyone's vaccinated, people are going to start concentrating on their jobs and their businesses and the future. And the question will be, who do I trust, Morrison and Frydenberg or the Albanese group? And hopefully the electorate will go for Scott Morrison, who has done an exceptional job during this period in keeping the economy strong. I read today private net wealth's up over 10% because the government's pumped hundreds of billions of dollars into the economy. In one sense, that's a good thing, because it's kept confidence up for people to keep, opening and running businesses and employing people because of JobKeeper, etc. They've kept this place buoyant in incredibly difficult circumstances, although, of course, we know the debt problem that it leaves behind.
Absolutely. But listen, both of you seem to think that Albanese is really in the hunt here, and the polls obviously have him stretching his lead over the government. So why, Steve Conroy, is Bill Shorten reportedly telling colleagues that he could be leader again after Albanese and his successor, presumably Tanya Plibersek, although, of course, Shorten denied yesterday saying this sort of thing. Here he is.
I think that America picked a 78-year-old is interesting, but I wouldn't take it much more for that.
So Bill Shorten seems to think Albanese will fail, and he's still a chance, but is he?
Well, look, I mean, there's each time in my 20 years, every election you get a new generation of people coming in, a new generation of talented people. The caucus has actually got 4 or 5 future leaders now in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the track that'll emerge from not just the new members who joined at the last election, but this coming election. So Labor's in a good position to do that. And I think the challenge for Bill is to establish himself as an absolutely credible figure and be a really senior minister in the Albanese government after the election. I think Bill would be a good minister. I think he would have been a great prime minister. It didn't come to pass, but I think he's in a position where the march of time. But look, he looks at John Howard.
I think so. Look, I think so. Look, I think he might wish. Yeah, but I think the tide seems to be behind Albanese at the moment, and the tide may be out for Shorten. Thank you both so much for your time, Michael Kroger, Steve Conroy.
Thanks, Andrew.
Good to be with you.